join me on a walk through the financial jungle. I know most people don't like to enter the jungle, right? It's dark, it's threatening, it's just unfamiliar territory, right? And of course, the financial jungle is a very complex ecosystem, and we don't want to get lost in it, obviously. So in order to maneuver through it, I think it's a good idea to take a lesson from Tarzan, and let's catch a wine, and let's get right into the middle of this botanical wonderland. In our financial jungle, we are meeting a group of its key inhabitants, and these are the rating agencies. And it's quite interesting to me that even after the financial crisis, that these agencies are still fairly unknown and their powers are completely underestimated. But what are these rating agencies and what do they actually do? Well, rating agencies are special for-profit service institutions that basically provide investors with four main types of ratings. First, corporate ratings, meaning they rate companies. The second type of ratings are finance ratings, banking sector ratings, meaning they rate banks, obviously. The third type of ratings are structured finance, which is a special sector of finance that was created to help transfer risk using very complex legal and corporate entities. And just a friendly reminder, these structured products got us into the financial crisis at the first place. And the fourth type of ratings are called sovereign ratings, meaning they rate countries. And I want to concentrate today in particular on these sovereign ratings, because sovereign ratings are literally the 800-pound gorilla in the room, or in our case, the 800-pound gorilla in the jungle. Nearly 70 trillion US dollars are allocated in the worldwide sovereign bond markets. And every other asset class, from corporate to finance, basically relies on sovereign ratings as a benchmark. And today, I would like to introduce to you a new model how to improve these sovereign ratings. But actually, what is a sovereign rating? A sovereign rating basically assesses a country's willingness and ability to roll over, to repay its debt. So if a country, as we have seen in the past, gets downgraded, meaning its creditworthiness is judged less favorably by the rating agencies, its costs for borrowing money is going up. And this can very easily translate into slower economic growth in the country and or higher taxes for its citizens. And I truly believe if a sovereign rating affects you and me in this way, it should clearly be defined as a public good, meaning it should be available, accessible, and transparent to all of us at no cost. But how can you make a rating transparent? Well, by making all the information that goes into it available, right? But today, however, sovereign ratings are actually the opposite of a public good. Most people still don't know how their country's rating is determined. More on that in a moment. First, more on the ratings themselves. Rating agencies assign ratings in terms of grades. So the United States or Germany, the top performers, usually get a so-called AAA, which is the highest rating. Other countries who are struggling repaying their debt may very easily end up with a rating below BBB-, which means they are most likely to default on repaying their debt. And investors worldwide are using these ratings, among other indicators, of course, to determine where and when to invest their money. And this is the reason why the rating agencies are so important. But they are not only important, they can also be menacing. And here's why. The rating agency sector, still today, after the financial crisis, is dominated by three players: Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch. Together, these three rating agencies form an oligopoly. And we know from experience, whenever we are witnessing an oligopoly, it's an unhealthy market concentration, right? And this leads to actually no incentive to improve your service. And we see that quite clearly when it comes to the quality of the products that the rating agencies put out, in particular when it comes to sovereign ratings. In addition, rating agencies are pretty opaque, meaning they lack transparency. And this brings me back to my basic point. Most people don't know how these ratings are conducted, in particular sovereign ratings. But there is still more wrong with the world of rating agencies. Countries need a rating in order to borrow money on the international markets. So countries, most of the countries, I have to say, are paying the rating agencies to get their rating. Yeah, you understood me correctly. They are paying the rating agencies to get their own rating. And this is known as the issuer payment model. And of course, this creates a conflict of interest, right? So, and this is another very important problem that we are facing today in the world of rating agencies. We at the Bertelsmann Foundation have invested a lot of time and effort to think about a different way how to disentangle all these different wines of the rating agency sector, how to make the financial jungle more accessible and more transparent. And we believe that what is needed right now is a new innovation, a new model of rating agency, a new inhabitant that we need to introduce to our financial jungle. A new model that is based on a non-profit structure, that is truly international, and that is solely focusing, only focusing on our 800-pound gorilla in the room on sovereign ratings. And we have called our model INCRA, which is the acronym for International Non-Profit Credit Rating Agency. So rightly so, you would ask right now, how would INCRA make a difference to the current system, right? INCRA would make a difference in a couple of areas. First, it would be set up on a completely different legal structure. It would be a non-profit based on a sustainable endowment. This endowment would generate profit that would allow us to run our operations, meaning to rate countries at no costs for countries or consumers. And this would, of course, eliminate the traditional conflict of interest that is created by the issuer payment model. For the endowment, we would invite investors in sovereign bonds, such as pension funds, investment firms, or central banks, to make a contribution. But of course, it's also important in our model, right, to eliminate conflicts of interest, even the perception of a conflict of interest. And therefore, we have developed a new governance structure that is, from my point of view, very sophisticated. We would have the funders of the endowment on the one side, the operations of INCRA on the other side, and in between, we have created a sort of cushion that we have called the Stakeholder Council, in which we would invite key actors from civil society, such as labor unions or consumer protection agency representatives. INCRA would be the first truly international agency with offices not only in Europe and the US, but in Latin America and Asia as well. INCRA would be a non-profit rating agency that would give, in particular, the emerging economies an equal share, interest, and representation. The second main difference that INCRA would make is in the area of its methodology. Usually, rating agencies use macroeconomic indicators to assess the sovereign risk of a country. Nothing wrong with that, obviously. But we developed a new set of indicators that we have called forward-looking indicators. These are highly qualitative indicators that mirror, so to say, the socioeconomic development of a country. They assess if a government is willing, for instance, to invest in education, a government's political communication, crisis management. In other words, these forward-looking indicators assess if a country is willing to plan and to invest for its future in a rapidly changing world. And this is a very important indicator to assess if a country is willing to repay its debt, which is the key of every sovereign rating. And it goes without saying, our INCRA model would make every information that would go into our rating from the beginning to the end completely transparent. So to summarize, INCRA would make our financial jungle more accessible and more transparent by decreasing the power of the big three rating agencies and by improving and increasing the competition in the rating agency sector by adding a new non-profit player to the mix. It would eliminate the conflict of interest that we know so far that is created by the issuer payment model by providing ratings, sovereign ratings in our case, for free. It would increase the transparency of ratings, and most importantly, it would increase the quality of the sovereign ratings by adding a comprehensive set of forward-looking indicators to the mix. So where are we standing right now in our efforts to bring INCRA to life? Legitimate question, obviously. We have put already our methodology to the test. We have rated 6 countries, the US, Germany, Japan, Brazil, among others, in order to really demonstrate that we can make a difference when it comes to the quality and transparency of the rating process. In addition, we are talking to potential investors right now if there is really a willingness and an appetite to bring INCRA to life. I know, looking at you like right now in the room, that sovereign ratings may still look to you like this very small piece in this very complex financial world. But I'm telling you, it's a very important one, because sovereign ratings affect us all, and they should truly be defined as a public good. So bringing INCRA to life is in the interest of everyone. And INCRA has the potential to become a cornerstone of a new financial system that is much more inclusive. A new financial system, think about it, that is much more inclusive. So INCRA is, from our point of view, a first step to cultivate the financial jungle. So I really hope I can count on all of you that you're part of our adventure team to illuminate the financial jungle. So listen to the call of the wild and help us to spread the word about INCRA. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Annette. Certainly best animated, maybe with Narina's talk today. Can you just give us, you said that ratings agencies obviously affect us all and sovereign debt affects us all. Can you kind of quantify that in any way? How does it affect us?
I mean, it's the highest asset class. As I said, nearly 70 trillion US dollars are allocated in the worldwide sovereign bond markets. And at the same time, sovereign ratings that should be clearly defined as public goods are treated in the most stepmotherly way by the rating agencies, because the truth is the big three are not making that many profits with the sovereign ratings. And before the financial crisis, and this is very interesting, doing sovereign ratings was a kind of priceless PR for the rating agencies. Only after the financial crisis, when the legislators, a lot of politicians, and the broader public took a closer look at the agencies and how they rated countries, in particular in Europe, if you recall the big outrage in Europe over financial ratings and sovereign ratings in 2011, 2012, you know, they thought that probably it's not the best PR that they can get right now. But it's not a really profitable business, and therefore the top talent of the rating agencies goes into corporate and banking sector ratings, where they make the most. But for us, for society, the most important rating is the sovereign rating part. Sure. And therefore, we believe we have to get this part of the financial sector absolutely right and make it much more inclusive.
Sure. Talk us through how that's going to come about. Obviously, there are, you know, fairly kind of powerful institutions involved that obviously don't want things to change. What's the step-by-step?
Yeah, I mean, it's already for us as a think tank, you know, very unusual to go so far in the process. Usually what think tanks do is you develop a model, as we did for INCRA, going down to a full-fledged business plan, and you would hope that somebody would say, oh my God, how brilliant, let's bring INCRA to life and let's set it up. But given the rating agency sector's nature, which is a very closed shop, very hard to enter sector of the financial world, we have decided to go one step further, and we are defining us in the process as an incubator right now, where we try to really figure out if there is this appetite among the key players investing in sovereign bonds to make a difference here. And it could very well be that we figure out there is no appetite. There are only people who are complaining about the rating agencies, but nobody really wants to change the system, how it works. And we are exactly in the process right now to figure that out.
So who are you taking out to? Who do you actually speak to on a day-to-day level in order to kind of to affect change?
Yeah, I mean, we have already spoken to a lot of countries who are members of the G20, because there's a special working group about rating agencies in the G20. We've talked in particular there to the countries who are the emerging economies, like the Mexicans, the Brazilians, and we see there is a great desire among the emerging economies to change the system. And the financial ratings agency sector is just one part of the financial sector. And these countries see right now that whether it's IMF reform, World Bank reform, they are blocked out. And it's the same in the rating agency sector, which is dominated by US rating agencies, yeah? And they are saying it's time right now that we have an equal share here in the system. So we get a lot of positive feedback, in particular from Latin America and Asia.
Sure. And I know you're doing more work with regards to inequality, which I know is something you feel is a very significant issue. Are you able to talk a little bit more about kind of those kind of, you know, issues of inequality that you're kind of going to be thinking about in the future?
Yeah, we just talked about it last night. I think one of the great issues that we as a foundation will pick up in the next months is the issue of income inequality and what will be the effects of income inequality on our societies. I think that's very important to really assess what income inequality does or has already done to democracies. So this will be one of the key issues that we will address. But still, INCRA is very dear to my heart. I'm the mother of INCRA, so to say, so I will not give up until we have really figured out how we can set this up.
Great. Well, you know, more power to you. Thank you very much for coming all this way from DC. Thank you.